Hello, I am Xarkun. This is World of Warships Legends, and today I bring you a video in the Tier 7 German destroyer, the Z-23. Now, I think this is a pretty good destroyer game, pretty illustrative of what you should do when you're playing a destroyer, which is why I'm calling the video what it is. Obviously, the Z-23 is a Tier 7 destroyer, highest tier in the game, except for the legendary tier, and currently the legendary ships are not quite in the game yet, since nobody has one, and there are no legendary destroyers available, at least for now. So, Tier 7, top tier for destroyers, or top tier as far as destroyers are concerned. Nevertheless, the things that occur in this game and the things I'm going to highlight should be broadly applicable to all tiers of destroyer play. And right off the bat, the first thing you want to do in a destroyer is capture the capture points in domination mode. Those, of course, give your team a passive points income that builds up over time. If you don't hold any capture zones, then you have to rely on sinking ships to gain points, and then that's only one lump sum of points. It doesn't continue to build. So, destroyers, since they are the stealthiest class of ships in the game, they are uniquely suited to taking the capture points. We see an enemy destroyer here, the Lightning, who unfortunately must have been having some server issues since he made it to this cap to start capping it, and now appears to be AFK. I, in my infinite skill, managed to miss the stationary target with all of my torpedoes. So there's a good illustration for you there. Torpedoes tend to work better if the target you're firing them at is broadside. Kind of like if you're firing AP from a battleship into a broadside target. Nevertheless, we are able to finish off the Lightning. Now the cap is no longer contested. I am able to take it without incident. And of course, there were two battleships that spawned with the now deceased Lightning. There's an Iowa out there and another battleship. Forget what it is, but I'm just sailing out here both to spot them, which is something that I don't think many people value as much as it should be valued. The destroyers, being the stealthiest class of ships in the game, are also uniquely positioned to be able to spot the enemy ships. And of course you need the enemy ships to be spotted for your teammates to shoot at them. So spotting enemies in a destroyer, along with capping capture points, those are your two main goals as a destroyer player. Those are the two things you want to focus on above everything else. Doing damage, while it is helpful, especially if you are able to take ships out, is not your primary goal as a destroyer. Killing all of the ships in domination mode, at least, is not what is going to win you games most of the time. That's taking the capture points. So I spotted those two battleships, determined they were not coming for the Bravo cap, which is safely secure for my team. But there is one cap over here. What is this? The Alpha cap that has been secured by the enemies. So that is where I'm heading. Plus, there are two enemy destroyers left. Now, these German destroyers, they're kind of the jacks of all trades. They've got decent torpedoes and decent guns. They're good at hunting down enemy destroyers, and they're not bad at torpedoing battleships. So I launched some torpedoes there at the Tirpitz, and what I'm hunting for is the Akatsuki. Now, I'm running Eric Bay as the commander on this ship. I've got the Twist and Track skill, which is possibly the most valuable skill that you can get on a destroyer. You can find it on Bay, Halsey, Trubetskoy, and I don't think you can find it on any of the British destroyer commanders. Not sure if one of the French destroyer commanders has it. I know Violette does not. The other guy, not quite sure. Anyway, it's one of the most valuable skills that you can get. It tells you, or it shows you, the general direction in which you can find the nearest enemy ship, and that is very useful when you are hunting down destroyers that you can't actually see. This twist and track gives you an idea of where they are. And countering other destroyers is also a very important part of the destroyer gameplay. Destroyers are very influential ships because of their ability to capture points and also to spot the enemy. So you want to be taking them down as your first priority, no matter what ship you're in, a battleship, a cruiser, or another destroyer. And countering destroyers while also in a destroyer doesn't necessarily mean hunting them down and shooting them to death. If you're in a Japanese destroyer, for example, you're going to find a hard time, or you're going to find that you have a hard time gunning down enemy destroyers. But Japanese destroyers, being more or less the stealthiest destroyer line in the game, are oftentimes capable of outspotting enemy destroyers, and simply spotting an enemy destroyer and being in a position, or spotting them in a position where your teammates can shoot at them, the value of that can't be overstated. Of course, your teammates do need to shoot at them at that point, and sometimes that's not going to happen. But generally, if you see a destroyer, you want to shoot at it. And if you're in a destroyer, and you're not in a destroyer that's suited to gunning down other destroyers, you can at least spot them, and you can ask your teammates to shoot at them. Now I'm securing the third capture point for my team. Earlier, I could have gone on and chased those battleships that were heading up toward Charlie, chasing damage. But what I'm here to tell you, as far as destroyer play goes, is if you're chasing damage and you're chasing battleships for damage, you're not doing it right. What you need to be doing is chasing XP. How do you get XP? You capture the capture points, you defend the capture points, you spot ships that your teammates do damage to, take down enemy destroyers, etc. That's how you get XP. You do it by doing the things that help your team win. Now, of course, you see my name here. I did actually get on the microphone during this game because this battleship has been spamming the chat wheel the entire time. And when I got on the microphone, I wasn't mean about it or anything. He was telling me to get back earlier as I was sitting here capping Charlie, and I did have to ask him why he thought I ought to get back since the Iowa can't spot me. I actually told him, in fact, instead of getting back, I'm going to shoot at the Iowa, to which he responded negative. And then I dropped a smoke screen. Obviously, I'm completely fine. I'm no longer spotting the Iowa. Smoke screens work both ways for destroyers. They conceal you, but they can also conceal the enemies unless you have a teammate outside of the smoke screen spotting the enemy ship, or if the enemy ship is close enough to your smoke screen and has recently fired its guns, then a smoke firing penalty is imposed on that enemy ship and you can see them from inside your smoke screen. In any case, I had to exit mine in order to spot the Iowa, but now the island is between us. So I'm going to sail around the island. The Iowa will not be able to see me. He is outside my detectability zone. If you look on the minimap, there's a blue ring around my ship. That represents my detectability zone, I guess. And if a ship is inside of that blue ring, then they could see me. If they're outside, then they can't. So if you ever forget or you don't know what your detectability limit is on the destroyers, looking at the minimap is a decent way to get a good sense of that. Now, that friendly battleship asked for my support. I told him that I'm not sure what more support he could possibly want, since I just torpedoed that Iowa and he is now almost dead. So my teammates are going to be able to finish that guy off, and the game here is pretty much wrapped up. Not sure how helpful anybody will find any of these tips for destroyer play, but I think I've given you a general idea of what your priorities in a destroyer should be. So if you adopt those and put them into practice in your gameplay, I think you should find that it'll help you win games more often than not, and also put you on the top of the leaderboard, because doing damage in a destroyer, secondary priority versus gaining XP by doing things to help your team win. You'll find I'm top of the leaderboard here, and that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.